Actor, playwright Carmen Aguirre is our guest. Her new memoir, her only memoir, is called Something Fierce. It's the story of a revolutionary daughter, a story of her family escaping Pinochet's brutal regime in Chile and going back and being still part of the resistance. How difficult was it for you to live essentially a double life?
Well, it wasn't that difficult because it was basically all I knew. So having done most of elementary school in Vancouver before we went back, I was used to a double life. So in my school, I learned very quickly that you don't walk around saying to the teacher or to your classmates, hey, you know, we've got this guy staying on our couch and he just came in from a Chacabuco concentration camp and totally tortured, because people think you're crazy and you're making up stories. And I quickly got a reputation for being nuts, basically, and pathological liar when I was 7, 8, 9, 10. So I learned to shut up very quickly and to have a double life in Vancouver, like the home life, the Chilean home life,
right,
and the mainstream Canadian school life, which I think many, many, many Canadians can relate to. So the double life wasn't that difficult when we went back to Bolivia. What was difficult to deal with was the fear of getting caught. And also that my parents would get caught, that my mother and Bob would get caught, and then what would happen.
Did you make friends with the locals?
Oh, yeah.
I hear you were kissing a few boys in the street, but you wrote that, so I can tell. But I'm thinking, you know, you have your childhood in Vancouver that you remember a little bit was very free-flowing and easier, and then you're in this drama, this serious drama, but you must long for the before, or did you?
At that time, yes, of course. I mean, of course I missed my Vancouver. My Vancouver was the Chilean community that I talked about a little bit earlier, and my school friends. I missed the nature.
Sure, right? Yeah. But you must have had a few bourgeois desires.
Oh, so many.
I'm sure.
So many.
But then to think...
I still do.
I still do, don't we all? But it's kind of like the Chileans' new elite, and some of the new elite, perhaps. Let's talk about those aunts of yours.
Yes.
Okay. They're not in the resistance.
No, they're not.
No. So what was that like for you to meet them and go back? And
yeah, right, my great aunts. Well, again, I don't know that it was that shocking. Right after the coup, my next door neighbor, this is what I'm talking when I was 5 years old, my next door neighbor, who was seemingly my best friend, stopped talking to me because then it became evident that her family was pro-Pinochet. Right. So basically that was happening all over the country, right? And within families. So we go to meet these great aunts who are pro-Pinochet, and when I say pro-Pinochet, I mean they belong to a movement called Fatherland and Liberty, which is pretty much a Nazi movement.
Right.
And they fund Pinochet, right? They give him money. So to be sitting at a table with them and their military nephews, which would be like my uncles, who had just had an audience with Pinochet that very day that they were talking about at the table, sure, in many ways was surreal. But also we had been prepared for that by my mother and Bob, like just never speak certain things with anybody. It doesn't matter if it's your own blood, because you don't know who people really are.
Right, because that happens in many families, not at a dangerous level necessarily, but certainly, you know, somebody can be a Democrat or a Republican or you know, a conservative or a liberal in the same family, cancel each other's votes, but we don't get shot.
No, we don't.
And that's a difference, big difference, or taken away, or any of that. Yeah. When you wanted to connect with your biological father, I know at first you couldn't write letters home or anything because everything was so secretive.
Yes. So, yeah, so eventually my mother said that we were able to, my sister and I were able to write my father, who didn't know where we were. So again, there's a long backstory, but my father thought we were in Costa Rica.
Right.
He did not know that we were in Bolivia. This is all for security purposes. When it was finally okay to write him, my mother and Bob had to kind of censor our letters, for lack of a better term, to make sure that my sister and I didn't write anything that was a bit too, that gave away too much about what we were doing.
Right. Was it your mother who said, we don't believe in charity, we believe in revolution?
Yes.
I see. But also, the fear of the people in Bolivia who you were living next to, your mother taught you, I know at a very young age, you don't fear the poor.
Yes.
And other lessons.
Yes. What other lessons?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, here's the thing. The movement that we belonged to was not fighting for civil rights. That's a given, right? What we were fighting for was a change of an entire society so that basic human rights, as opposed to civil rights, could be met. So the right to eat, the right to medical attention, the right to shelter, the right to clean water, which unfortunately, to this day, millions and millions and millions of people around the world don't have, right? So to me, I guess the biggest lesson was I am willing to give up some of my individual rights in return for people's basic human rights being met.
When you joined the resistance at 18, did that take a lot of soul searching, or was it a given, as I suggested in the intro?
It did take a lot of soul searching. So yes, of course it was a given that I would do that when I was 18. And it took a lot of soul searching because really I would rather just have fun.
I understand, right? Like I'm in this eventful life, and it's for the right cause, it's from my heart, and yet all my friends are just winging around.
Oh yeah.
So why do I have to be so serious?
Yes. Yes.
I understand that.
Yeah.
When did you write your first play?
I guess I was 25 when I wrote it. Yeah, the first one.
And how many since? Quite a few.
Written and co-written, if I count the ones that I've co-written, 18.
And the theater actor in you?
You mean what am I doing?
Yes.
What am I doing? In a year, I'm touring a one-woman show called Blue Box. And coincidentally, a lot of the content from this book is in that one-woman show. It's a different take on it, and it's a different voice than the one in the book. I think it's pretty funny, the play.
Right. Well, some of Something Fierce is darkly comic.
Yes.
I don't think you can be in any heinous circumstance that there aren't times that only humor helps.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And irony, the fact that one of your safe houses was owned by a Nazi couple.
Yes.
Well, Klaus Barbie was living in the vicinity.
In La Paz, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
What they don't know.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Endgame, the series Endgame, you're in that on Showcase.
Yes.
Is that fun?
So much fun.
I'm sure.
Great cast, great crew, great everything.
Why did you decide to write this?
Why?
Why?
Well, because nobody else wrote about it, and everybody's dying, and I thought, this is a really, I think, important part of Chilean history and Canadian history. And,
very much so.
Yeah, and nobody feels safe enough to write it.
Do you feel safe about writing it?
Well, I don't know. I got over it.
Right.
Yes and no. Yes and no. And I got over it. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But as you know, it's one thing to speak out; it's another thing to write it down.
Yes.
and it's all here.
Yes.
But you haven't had any ramifications or threats.
No.
No.
No, I don't think I will. Yeah.
Well, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having me.
Something Fierce, Memoirs of a Revolutionary Daughter, Carmen Aguirre. Her writing is indeed, according to Karen Conley, something fierce, and she's finally told this story of triumph.